Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, everybody knows that Warner Brothers Discovery is broke, right? We know that they had like a $9 billion write-down on their quarterly earnings losses the other day. But boys and girls, when a company's that desperate and they have as many IPs and as much of a back catalog as Warner Brothers does, probably arguably one of the largest in all of Hollywood, ladies and gentlemen, including, of course, my beloved and our beloved DC with Batman and Superman and all of that kind of crazy things out there. Well, after the absolute devastating loss that was Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League, the game that came out and cost the company anywhere between $200 to $400 million in revenue lost, well, it looks like David Zaslav is not quite done with video games yet, and he understands the fact that, yes, he does have one of the largest IP catalogs out there, and guess what, ladies and gentlemen, it looks like just about absolutely everything is for sale over there at Warner Brothers. Yes, they are desperate for cash, and it is going to go money printer go brrr if they start selling off and actually pulling a lot of these things out. And it looks like they are very much open to this, ladies and gentlemen. So we're going to get this article from IGN.com, get into exactly what Zaslav and the rest of the folks over there at Warner Brothers Discovery said, and of course give you a little bit of speculation about what we might end up seeing come out of Warner Brothers, because obviously like a Game of Thrones game, we've obviously got more Lord of the Rings stuff that they could clearly do as well, especially when it pertains to like the movies. Obviously Harry Potter's been a huge success for them. We've got the Quidditch game coming out here very, very shortly that I am personally super excited about, and obviously Legacy was done really well. So they've got a very wide broth of a wonderful IPs that we all know and love that could give us more quality gaming studio. And honestly, even this could potentially give Batman and Superman a chance to go somewhere else as well, because even though we know that James Gunn wants to control all that, considering what's been going on with the gaming industry over there at Warner Brothers, that could also be something that could change as well. And as we know, they have no problem doing Elseworld stories over at DC either. So we'll have to see what we end up getting out of that. But we're going to get all the juicy details here from IGN.com. But before we do, if you do enjoy our content, hit that like button, share it with all your friends, and subscribe or follow if you have not already, because boys and girls, we are inching our way closer and closer to 1,200. And I could not do that without every single one of you. Also, leave us a comment down below. Let us know what some of your favorite IPs that you know that Warner Brothers currently holds the rights to. What would you like to see as a video game put out there? Who knows? Anything is possible at this point, boys and girls, because David Zaslav is doing a fire sale and every intellectual property right that he can farm out is going to go. So Warner Brothers Discovery wants to license franchises, which include Batman to Harry Potter and more, to other studios. AAA Game of Thrones, when? And honestly, considering what we've seen out of some of the AAA game studios, I think it would actually probably be a much better idea to maybe farm it out to some of these more indie studios that have done some really great work lately. I mean, come on. Can you imagine capturing Superman in Power World? That could be fun. So Batman, Justice League, Harry Potter, Looney Tunes, Game of Thrones, the list of intellectual property owned by Warner Bros. Discovery is massive, and an awful lot of it seems to be ripe for turning into a video game. If you're thinking Warner Bros. Has been a little slow to leverage that library, it sounds like the company's leadership agrees, and it's looking to not just make more of its own games, but to license out some of the biggest franchises to other game studios in the future. And this is a great idea. Like we said, we know Warner Bros. Is broke right now. They are desperate for cash. And at the end of the day, guess what? If they put something out there and it's trash and it's nonsense, it's bad, well, guess what? It's not going to fall on them. They farmed it out to somebody else. And who knows? They might actually get successful, especially if they're smart about the studios that they license things out to. Bye-bye, Rocksteady. You're probably not going to get another chance. Today on the Warner Brothers Discovery Q2 earnings, which is actually yesterday, CEO David Zaslav and President of Global Streaming Games JB Perrette responded to questions about the strategic value of games to Warner Brothers given recent uneven performance. That's one way to put it, to say that's a very nice way to say Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League cost that company hundreds of millions of dollars. The company had just reported gaming revenue down 41% year over year due to Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League compared to Hogwarts Legacy's massive success last year. Does Warner Brothers see the games as a core part of its portfolio? Seems like the answer is yes. Both Zaslav and Peretti explained that they wanted to grow the gaming business, especially in the free-to-play space, which honestly I really like. My wife and I did the beta, the little open beta that they had for the, what do they got it right here? The Multiverse. Yeah, the Multiverse game that they put out where you can get to play with a bunch of different cool characters and stuff like that. Back when my PlayStation 4 was still alive and working, my wife and I used to play it with each other all the time. It was great. We got to beat each other up. It was fun. It was a good time. I highly recommend the game. Go check it out. But yeah, that's a great strategy, right? Free-to-play games are a great way to do it. The Fortnite has been a great perspective of how to do that, a great example of how to do that, right? Because that's what you do. Make the game completely and totally free for everybody. Just go in there and play, give them a bunch of generic stuff, and then make the extra stuff, the extra characters, the extra skins. And I mean, Fortnite's did an entire business model over it. We'll see if Multiverse can actually end up pulling that off or not. But that's that balances some of the ups and downs of the cyclical console industry, right? Because that's kind of keeps you going through, you don't have big releases. If you've got a free-to-play game that everybody's playing all the time in between your big releases, that kind of steadies out your flow stream right there. It makes a lot of sense. That's part of why Warner Brothers acquired Players First Games, developer of the Multiverse, earlier this year. Zaslav followed up by noting that not only did Warner Brothers want to keep leveraging its 11 studios, but that there's a lot of interest among others in coming to take advantage of some of that IP for gaming, which we're looking at. So let's break down the full quote right here, not just the highlights of IGN, but I think this makes sense, right? You've got this entire catalog of backstories out there. You've got all of these indie developers that have success, and now they've got some money in their pocket, and they are just chomping at the bit to do something bigger and better with what they've currently got and what they've already shown that they can do. This is a great opportunity for anybody out there that's in the video game development space out there to check this kind of stuff out and see what exactly are Warner Brothers, what's Zaslav's requirements going to be to get access to characters like Superman, Aragorn, Harry Potter, and all of the rest of them out there. That should be we might end up getting some really cool, really wild, and probably some really bad games going forward with some of all the IPs that they've got. So Perrette is the guy in charge of Warner Brothers Games over there. He says, we look at the evolution of storytelling and interactive entertainment as a space. And it's one of the unique areas in media that is growing. I mean, there ain't no comparison. Video games outstrip Hollywood every year over and over and have been for a very long time. Both growing in terms of time spent, growing in terms of engagement, and growing in terms of revenue. So we will see this is a huge opportunity for us. We know that our franchises, particularly in a world where the game industry launching brand new franchises is getting harder and harder for a number of reasons. Yeah. Go woke, go broke. Stop putting out trash, dumpster fire, diversity, inclusion, and equity kind of nonsense games, and people will buy them. I promise you. Launching brand new franchises getting harder and harder, including IDFA depreciation and more challenges with marketing and customer acquisition, and that franchises like the ones we have are in high demand and can help in launching games. You still need a great game, right? Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League, anybody? And the reality is we've had the unfortunate, in a short period of 12 months, we went from having a record year in 2023 with Hogwarts Legacy to unfortunately having the opposite side of that spectrum with Suicide Squad. And it still hit the driven nature of some of that business. But one of the areas that we're particularly leaning into, which is about half of the $200 billion games industry, is the free-to-play space. So you're probably going to get a lot of mobile games based on Warner Brothers IPs, right, which are one of the biggest markets for the free-to-play games out there. I mean, everybody's got a smartphone these days pretty much, and it's one of them situations where a lot of people play mobile games. They're super easy, they're super convenient. I mean, I know it's something that there's a certain silly little farming simulator game that I like to play in between commercial breaks on shows that we're watching or stuff like, or television shows that we're watching on like Pluto, or when the ads pop up for YouTube and stuff like that. That's what I like to do. I like to sit there and play with that kind of stuff, so it's one of those situations where that is another space. So I'd imagine we're probably going to get Game of Thrones mobile games if we haven't already had for a lot of these different IPs out there. It could be very interesting to see what that ends up meaning. And the first player deal was really about strengthening our capabilities in that space, because we do think we are subscale and we have opportunities to grow in that space, which is a big part of the market. And when we do, then it'll also help provide some more balance to our games business. From the inevitability cyclicity of more console-based releases, which have a 3 to 4 year time horizon and a little bit more lumpiness, even when you do get it right? The 3 to 4 time horizon, right? They're talking about the years and years that it goes into creating a video game. And that's one of the things why I thought for a while that we are honestly going to get a lot higher. We were going to get a much faster turnaround in the video game sphere. And we're already seeing that how quickly, because, Hollywood's got all this back catalog of billions of dollars and they can spread all this stuff around. Most game studios produce one game at a time. And this is one of the things where once you fail, once you flop, boom, you got to make a turnaround, or you're going to end up going the same way the developers of the Saints Row reboot did, and you're just going to end up closing shop. So that's why I literally think this is going to turn around. And it looks like they're going in this kind of space as well. So Zaslav chimes in, one of the strategic advantages of owning all of our IPs is that the world has changed. It used to be you launch a movie or you launch a TV series, then you do a game. But one of the reasons why Hogwarts Legacy was so successful and the #1 game last year, you went to Hogwarts Legacy and you entered the game and you were able to become part of the world. That ultimately, I think, is a big piece of where the industry is going. That will create a movie, whether it's Batman or Superman or Harry Potter, and maybe there'll be a TV show, but the ability to go into that world and have that experience of spending time with all the characters is still something that we still own. We have 11 studios here and we have a lot of IP, and there's a lot of interest among others in coming in and taking advantage of some of that IP for gaming, which we're looking at, because as JB said, we need to get bigger, and the IP that we own and the value of that in the gaming space is something that we look forward to taking advantage of. Warner Brothers Discovery reported $9.7 billion for the quarter. We talked about that overall loss of $10 billion. But that's something that I think is fascinating. I think that's really cool, and I think that's a genius idea. We know the company's broke right now, right? So it sounds like David Zaslav and the rest of these guys, at least when it comes to the video game industry, and we know that they plan on doing this with a lot of their Hollywood and television show intellectual properties as well, they're going to turn into a farm machine. They're broke, but they've got one of the largest catalogs in all of Hollywood. And guess what? It's time to turn that money printer on, David Zaslav. Give us some cool video games. Give us more Harry Potter. Give us some Game of Thrones video game. Give me more Looney Tunes. Give it to us. Give it to us. Give it to us. We would absolutely love all of this kind of stuff, boys and girls, and I cannot wait to see what happens in the future of video games, because it looks like David Zaslav is once again like, it's a fire sale. Everything's got to go. You want to run an IP. You want to try a video game hand at it. By all means, go right ahead. And as always, though, as is the caveat, like they said, it doesn't always pan out very well. Sometimes you're going to get failures. And guess what? You will end up getting exactly what you deserve. Because how did that work out for Rocksteady and Suicide Squad? Yeah, drastically small, a whole lot of firings, and a whole lot of stuff coming out of them going forward. So, as always, you video game studios out there, same as Hollywood. If you get a hold of one of these IPs, do a good job, respect the fans, and we'll make you rich. Decide to go against the grain, decide to rewrite it in your own image. Well, just as always, you'll get exactly what you deserve. We'll sit back, laugh at you, watch you burn down to the ground. But if not, we'll make you rich. At the end of the day, you do it to yourself.